Well, kids, I think we might see the end of the Iran war and rainbow crosswalks. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, give it up. Good to see you, too. Hope you had a good weekend. Let's get into the first story, which is, more important than the rainbow crosswalks, of course, is the Iran war. Donald Trump gave a few statements to the press gaggle right in front of the roaring airplane. I hate it when he does this because the audio is terrible. But he's talking about over the weekend, things sounded pretty good. Iran wants to make a deal. They want to make a deal pretty bad. In fact, the talks were so optimistic and promising that he's delayed the idea of him bombing their utility infrastructure, including their power plants, transmission lines, whatnot. Sorry about the bad audio, but this is important stuff here. Iran wants to make a deal.
We'd like to make a deal, too. We're going to get together today by probably phone because it's very hard to find a country. It's very hard for them to get out, I guess. But we'll at some point very, very soon meet. We're doing a 5-day period. We'll see how that goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up with settling this. Otherwise, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out.
I'm bombing our little hearts out. Like, it's so cute. He's like, oh, you know what? Drop another one. But that sounds promising, right? That sounds good. I don't know who he's talking with. Nobody knows who he's talking with. And, of course, that's pretty much the next question he gets from the reporters. Who the hell are you even talking to?
Speaking with Mr. President. A top person. Don't forget, we've wiped out the leadership phase 1, phase 2, and largely phase 3. But we're dealing with the man who I believe is the most respected and the leader. It's a little tough. We've wiped out everybody.
Is that the Supreme Leader?
No, not the Supreme Leader. We don't. Well, nobody heard of the second Supreme Leader, the son.
Are these direct?
Nobody. We have not heard from the son. Every once in a while, you'll see a statement made, but we haven't. We don't know if he's living. But the people that seem to be running it, and they seem that based on really fact, because things they've said have taken place.
Mr. President,
Again,
Mr. President, I know you deployed.
Because I don't want him to be killed. Okay, I don't want him to be killed.
Mr. President, you deployed.
Nobody wants to be that. Nobody wants that job right now. Nobody's exactly looking forward to being the head of that particular country.
Now, there's a little sarcasm there, but I would imagine the incoming resumes for the next Ayatollah position have probably slowed a little bit. They were probably less appealing than it was a couple months ago, that's for sure. So there he is in front of the loud airplane saying Iran wants to make a deal. He didn't say who they're talking to. I mean, good point. If I admitted that there's someone in charge, I'd probably have to kill him in the next week or two. But I don't know who he's talking to. Maybe it's the guy that they're all the way down. They went from the president to the vice president to the speaker of the house and to the chain of command. We have like the lone survivor scenario. Did they get everyone? Did they get the whole cabinet? Are we down to like the water boy? One more question, straight to Hormuz. Who's going to control them? Who's controlling them right now?
What about the Strait of Hormuz? Who's going to be in control of that?
That'll be opened very soon if this works.
How soon? And who's in control of it? Will Iran still be able to control the flow of oil?
Be jointly controlled.
By who?
Maybe me.
You want the United States to be in
Me
control
and the Ayatollah, whoever the Ayatollah is, whoever the next Ayatollah. Look, and there'll also be a form of a very serious form of a regime change. Now, in all fairness, everybody's been killed from the regime. They're really starting off. There's automatically a regime change. But we're dealing with some people that I find to be very reasonable, very solid. The people within know who they are. They're very respected. And maybe one of them will be exactly what we're looking for. Look at Venezuela, how well that's working out. We are doing so well in Venezuela with oil and with the relationship between the president-elect and us.
So, I mean, we haven't heard anything negative out of Venezuela, and given how the media likes to report on President Trump, anything bad will be a headline. That means things must be going great in Venezuela. That means things must be going better than expected, or you'd be hearing about it. Anything negative that can be thrown into the media, to the public conversation that would make Donald Trump look bad, don't think they overlook any of that. So I take that as a wildly positive sign. I don't know who he's talking to. I don't know who he's negotiating with. I don't know who's left. But I think we're about to find out pretty soon. Either we're going to be putting boots on the ground and this thing gets escalated into sort of the forever war scenario of the aughts and teens, or we're about to pull out of this, declare victory. Whoever's in power, they're going to want to open the Straits of Hormuz just to keep the oil flowing and staying in power and make the bombs stop falling. And I think there's a good reason to be wildly optimistic about our situation right now. Because I'm a non-interventionist. I wouldn't do this, but I wish the president well. I would like to see a quick victory. I'd like to see a minimal loss of life on both sides, especially us. And it looks like if you want to be optimistic, we might achieve all that, and we might do it pretty soon. All right, coming up next on the James Show, coming back, Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis. So a guy with actual military experience is going to tell you what the lay of the land looks like. Because right now there's a lot of scary reporting on Iran's missile threat and the Straits of Hormuz, but the market seems to be kind of happy. The price of oil seems to be retreating a little bit. So let's just get a good look at what's going on in the lay of the land, militarily speaking, next with the retired Lieutenant Colonel. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, Texas homeowners, James Parker here for Rhino Shield. Now, I've heard some terrible stories about the people who have the wrong kind of bricks or the wrong type of mortar, and when they go to paint over them, it's the wrong type of paint, so then you create some sort of weird seal where it deteriorates the mortar, and it actually is bad for the bricks, and it's bad for the structure. And Rhino Shield doesn't do that. Rhino Shield is breathable. Number one, it doesn't make some awkward seal and start deteriorating your mortar and bricks. It actually expands when the house heats up, and it contracts when the house cools off. And so it's 8 to 10 times thicker than paint, but it won't cause the problems that sometimes paint can cause when you paint over bricks. Also, it'll save you on your energy costs because it's 8 to 10 times thicker than paint. It blocks 90% of UV sun rays, a 6.9 R factor. But also, it just looks great, too. It keeps the texture of whatever's under it. So if it is brick, stone, stucco, metal, hardy board, probably if it was made of the wool, it would probably stick to that. I don't know. I've never seen a wool house. I'm just running out of materials. But it all starts with you going to rhinoshieldDFW.com. Have them come out. They'll show you how the technology works, and they'll explain how they have to prep your house, which is super important as well. And then after you have all the information, then you decide, hey, Rhino Shield is better than paint. I think I'll go with that. Be sure to mention the James Show so you get 15% off. And if you ask real nice, they'll put it on a low monthly payment. They can't do that for paint. Go to rhinoshieldDFW.com. All right, let's check in with how things are going in Iran. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. My next guest returning to The James Show, Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis. But, Robert, before I ask you specifically about, hey, I know, good to see you. Sorry, the crowd's a little excited. You've talked about your books in the past, and I finally did a little deeper dive into, let's see what kind of books he's written. How many have you written now? What are we up to, like 15, 16? Wow. All right. So this looks like something a lot of our people would be interested in, and they almost seem to be on a thread here. Can you explain your body of work? Well, there seems to be also the theme of a lot of your books is what are things going to look like in the near future? All these threads that you're putting together, and I don't want to say it's like prophecies, but you're just kind of seeing like here's where we might have the final empire of the world, or this is going to have deadly consequences. You have the future war, the deeper state. So you look like you're really focused on what's going to happen in the next few years. No way. Well, you and I have talked about on this show how there's sort of a common thread between this and Venezuela and China and Russia. These aren't all independent conflicts happening in a vacuum. There's a big web of connection between all of this. And with that, how do you think the Iranian effort is going so far? So let's talk about the Straits of Hormuz. Iran can't really keep those closed without hurting themselves, so they could just selectively let tankers through. What's the end game with that one? All right, we're talking with Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis. Now, your series of books focuses highly on, or part of it focuses on AI. We just had Elon Musk announce a new terafab chip plant in Texas. It's to the tune of 20 something $billion investment here. Is that something that's going to be a game changer, or is he just overly promoting that to get some positive PR? Right. How nice would it be to have some of that chip manufacturing back here stateside instead of just all in the hands of Taiwan, which is, of course, living in the shadow of China? I'm not telling you anything, judging by your book titles. If we wanted to understand all this, is there a certain progression of books that you recommend with? Like, is there an episode one that you think we should start with? Sounds like good stuff. All right, Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis, I appreciate you being on the James Show again, sir. Yeah, these things are definitely all connected. 800 288 9227. 800 288 9227. We will continue with the latest on Iran next on The James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. So how long is this Iran war going to mess with your price of gas? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your energy secretary was on Fox Business this morning talking to Lauren Simonetti, who was asking him about the whole situation with gas prices and the Iran war and the Straits of Hormuz. Give me a couple minutes here, and this will get you all caught up on what it looks like from the point of view of your Secretary of Energy.
Secretary Chris Wright joins us now. We enter week 4 of the war with Iran. The president says it could be over in 5 days. What happens to energy prices at that point?
Oh, they would go down quite a bit. If we see a pathway to have the Straits of Hormuz open soon and energy flowing again, you'd see energy prices drop pretty significantly. Fortunately, we went into this conflict in a strong position. With President Trump's policies, U.S. production of oil and natural gas are at record highs, and our alliances with other energy producers around the world are in good shape.
Can we reopen the Strait of Hormuz to all and the free flow of energy in 5 days? How does that happen?
That happens. That could happen if a peace agreement is reached. But the military effort has just gone swimmingly well. We've rapidly destroyed their navy, their air force, so much of their offensive capabilities, a lot of their leadership. And if Iran thinks enough is enough, and they're willing to make a deal to get the United States to get the ends we need, then there'll be a deal.
Hopes for that deal really moved to the market, both equities today and the price of oil. Yet the Strait of Hormuz is still clogged. The nation is paying $3.95 a gallon to fill up today. Does $4 gasoline, the prospect of that, factor into your discussions with Iran?
No magic thresholds there. Of course, this president got elected to drive down energy prices, which phenomenally he has done. He understands all the American consumers are suffering right now. We don't like to see that happen. We're doing everything we can to offset it. But this is a few weeks of turmoil, a few weeks of disruption to solve a multi-decadal and ultimately multi-generational problem.
All right, so there he is, your Energy Secretary, Chris Wright. So it really just depends on what happens with these negotiations that are going on right now. Now, you're not going to hear the good news. You're not going to hear if there's a great, you'll hear about it, but it's not going to be harped upon. It's not going to be in the headlines. It won't be in the headlines like, Sydney Sweeney's very offensive Blue Jean ad. But look at Venezuela. Things are going good there because it's not being brought up anymore. It seems to be a market improvement. No complaining, no civil war, no people dying in the streets, no giant loss of life. So we could be facing that just in a couple weeks in Iran. We could be on the precipice of a forever war. I am still maintaining a healthy level of skepticism like I do about all foreign interventionism. But right now, there's no reason that you shouldn't be more positive than negative on this. Now, my next guest is going to bring up something a little closer to home. You've heard her before on the James Show. Her name is Kelly. Let me go ahead and give you a couple of clips where she's been on the show before, because her new expose is around the same subject here. Now, her profession, her day job, she's a realtor in the Frisco area in Collin County. You can tell by her picture, like her promotionals picture, she's got her arms crossed and she's doing that realtor lean where one shoulder's closer to the camera and she kind of leans into it. It's hilarious. Like, you can tell by her picture what she does for a living. But she's not wrong. She has seen enough chicanery that she's made her positions known at a few Frisco City Council meetings, and they've made their way on the James Show. This was her, I guess, about a week ago.
I dove deeper and looked into some housing. Several homes are being bought. The owner is returning to India and renting out every room. Some of these homes are even listed as homesteaded on the CAD tax-wise, even though it's being used as a mini apartment building with the owner in India. And that makes sense, considering all the tech companies hiring H-1B employees that are being ran out of them. This advertisement says they will sell a home to an Indian family for $136,000 less than the advertised price. Registered LLCs are buying up properties in Collin County and only selling to Indians and Muslims.
Now, hang on a second. That's illegal, isn't it? Now, she'll go into a little bit more detail coming up in the next segment. But this was a clip I played of her 2 months ago or a month ago.
The rapid demographics change in Frisco is the result of steering the Indian community for tax benefits at the expense of locals losing jobs and massive culture change. I hold a Texas real estate license, and I was an assistant property manager for a company that owns apartment communities in Frisco and in their surrounding areas. In the apartments, a person from India will come in, fill out an application, and they will get approved. And then on move-in day, the qualifying person is nowhere to be found, but a friend will be picking up the keys, and the next thing you know, the original leaseholder is back in India and impossible to get a hold of. That means the person who actually moved in did not have to qualify like everybody else. That is a fair housing issue. Let one applicant who got denied find out, and that is a massive lawsuit waiting to happen. It's happening on such a large scale in Frisco and Plano that is impossible to police. Once an apartment gets in Indian hands, it's over. If they want to move out, they don't honestly let the management company know. They advertise it on various Indian Facebook groups and apps and make sure they do an apartment change to another person from India. No other race or nationality has a chance, and that's only accounting the people that are doing the changes through the office staff. I also see people who were evicted because their job was replaced by H-1B workers, and that can keep you from renting for 4 to 7 years, depending. Meanwhile, people from India are walking in, not even going through the proper channels to apply, while Texans are going homeless. Part of the application process is a background check to make sure you have no felonies and to make sure you are legally here. When they don't go through the proper channels to apply, we don't know who our neighbors are. There is also a lot of crime on top of the fair housing stuff. One apartment in particular had many complaints that people from India were rotating through it like it was a hotel room.
Now, see, this is something where I have heard people call in and talk about this. I've heard people send me emails about this. They've sent me Facebook messages about this. They've sent me links to other people talking about this. But now we've actually got a realtor who's done some legwork and gone and seen it with her own eyes. And she's actually in that arena. That's her profession, being a realtor. You'll hear from her next. Her name is Kelly Smith, and she's going to go a little bit more into detail about the housing fraud and discrimination that's going on right under your nose in Frisco. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show, News Talk 870, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, your next guest has some details on housing discrimination in Frisco. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins, and they cover a lot of stories, but they can't cover your own backyard like the James Show can. I want to introduce you to Kelly Smith. If you're just joining us, I'd play two good sound clips of her where she has been on the James Show in episodes past, one from a week ago, one from a little over a month ago. Welcome for your first trip to the James Show, Kelly. All right. Now, I think you're an important guest to have on this topic because this comes up a lot on the James Show. The fact that 20 years ago, people of Indian origin made up 2% of Frisco's population. Now it's a third. And there's been a lot of negative consequences that I hear from these people a lot, Kelly. And I have heard the story that you have more details on a lot, how people were not able to buy a house, or there was a house that was listed, or there was an apartment that wasn't even listed. And so you've uncovered both of those, the apartment side and the housing side. Which one do you want to start with first? Apartments first. Okay, go. How are Indians cheating native Texans out of apartments? Okay, so now, Kelly, anybody can hear that and understand, well, that's not fair, but isn't that also illegal? Is there any criminal charges? Are we just breaking the property management policies, or is there housing discrimination laws that actually kick in? Okay, so let's talk about the housing side. They go in, they get an apartment, and they keep it within the Indian community, shutting out everyone else. How are they doing this with actual houses? Yep. Interesting. All right, Kelly, you're a local realtor. You've had some training in this. What can we do about it? Isn't there some agency you can report this to, and they'll go clean it right up? So the people we're supposed to call the Texas, what'd you call it, like real estate commission? But that's not a police force. All right, hang on, Kelly Smith. Let me hit pause on you right here. That's the pause button. We'll continue with Kelly Smith, a local realtor who is just giving some details on housing discrimination, some of which sounds pretty illegal, going on by the Indian community up in Frisco. If you've seen something similar, you can share your story or add on to what Kelly's sharing with us. 800-288-9227. Local realtor Kelly Smith continues on the James Show next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. We are continuing with my guest, the local realtor, Kelly Smith, who's giving us some details on Indian housing fraud in Frisco. Now, this is important because these are stories we've heard from a lot of callers and a lot of emailers and but I've actually got a woman who this is her job. She actually knows the rules and isn't just talking out of the side of her face saying, this looks illegal. This can't be right. This looks like discrimination. But first, you have confirmed this is discrimination and has some criminality to it. Now we're all left with, well, how do we get them to enforce the law? We don't have a good answer for that. But my next step I want to ask you, Kelly Smith, is talk about the effect that this has on not just the local residents of Frisco, but like myself and Miss Parker have talked about moving in closer so I don't have to drive in from Bug Tussle all the time. And Frisco used to be on the list of places that I'm not so sure it is anymore. What would you say to that, Kelly? Works at the school or just in Frisco in general? Okay. That's good. Close enough. I've heard those stories. Okay, Kelly, we have some callers. I think they might have some questions you can help with, so stick with me here. We're going to start with Bill in Fort Worth. You're talking to James Parker and local realtor Kelly Smith.
Hello, James. Hello, Kelly. Isn't this fraud? If you fill out an application to lease an apartment or lease a home, and don't you have to state that you're going to reside there? And if you don't reside there and you sublease it, aren't you committing fraud?
Kelly?
And if that's the case, wouldn't this be something that the Collin County DA would be involved in? Did I lose you?
She's there. She hears you.
Okay.
Well, does the apartment complex have to want to press charges in order for that to actually be enforced?
James, I lost her.
Okay. Well, that answers Bill's question. Let's go to Ryan. Ryan in Hazlet. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
So there's two things I think we can do, James. One, if you have multiple people, multiple families living in the same home, you can report them to code enforcement because houses are zoned as single-family residence. If there's multiple families living in the residence and you can prove it, which neighbors usually can, they see 20 adult males.
Ryan, I'm sorry to interrupt. That all sounds correct. Why aren't we doing this already? Do I have to incentivize this? Hey, if you can get someone kicked out of a house that's living there illegally, I'll give you a WBAP koozie. I mean, how do we incentivize this?
Well, that was my other one. You can enforce this by a sneaky way of if you apply to rent there and you're denied, you can then sue them for an equal housing opportunity violation.
Interesting.
So
all right, Ryan.
Enforcement is money.
All right, let's get our response. Thank you for your call, Ryan. Kelly, is it really that simple? You can apply to rent there and then sue them into oblivion if they're doing this? Okay, that sounds hard. You know, I hate to bring up the old trite trope that comes up on this show, but substitute white for that and see if anyone would have a fuss with it. No, I just held onto this house for a year and a half, and I didn't rent it out to anyone who was asking until I found the appropriate white person, and see if that would get a little more attention. Right? All right, we're continuing. One more question for Kelly Smith, a local realtor on the Indian housing discrimination. This is Keith in Garland. You're on WBAP. Hey, Keith.
Hey, how's it going, James?
Go ahead.
Hey, actually, I'm headed to the Grove right now. I do a lot of homeowner service, and I've been doing it a long time. I've seen it change through the years. It used to be 50-50, something like that, but it's 95% now. And when I go into these homes, it's set up like an office. There's multiple rooms, computers. It doesn't look like a home downstairs. They've never let me upstairs.
Turn them in. Give us these addresses and we'll turn them in. Can you do that? Can you help us out with that?
Yeah, I'll do it. And it's Mosaic, the Grove, Star Trail, 10 Mile.
All right. Hey, all right, hang on a second. Keith, I'm going to hang up on you here. Just get your answer off the radio. Kelly, is this like arbitrage? Can you be the person who receives the tips here where suspicious behavior is going on and then act on it? I don't want to be that guy. I'm not very responsible. All right. Kelly is so right is her on X. Kelly is right. TX is her Twitter handle. Thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing some of this. All right. That's Kelly Smith. She has 2 grown kids and still showing her midriff in her profile picture. Round of applause for midriffs. Thank you, ladies, for staying in shape. Coming up next on The James Show, I almost had a stroke this morning when Texas Department of Transportation was giving you tips on how to stay safe in the bike lanes. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Have I ever told you how much I hate bike lanes? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Check out stories that you won't hear anywhere else from 11 to 2 on WBAP. I hate bike lanes. I've always hated them. I've always thought it was a dumb idea. I've always thought it was a weird sort of infantilizing of adults to have them want to take a child's toy to work. I've also recognized after thinking about it for maybe 8 seconds that it's a really dumb idea in the state of Texas. How on earth do you expect a grown man to have any sort of professional job, but he has to take a bike to work when it's 104 degrees in August? I'm going to get there. I'm going to be all sweaty. I'm going to smell like Bigfoot. No one's going to take me. I'll have to have another shower by the time I get there. And that's if I live within biking distance. You know how dumb bike lanes sound to country people? I don't like to stress how much I'm such a backwoods hayseed bumpkin. But how on earth does someone who lives a 40-minute round trip to the nearest gallon of milk, how is he supposed to take a bicycle to work? It's dumb. So how many people take a bicycle to work? Less than 0.5%. Yet, here's what drives me even more insane. Ever since I've been working here in downtown Dallas, I've had a bike lane like bricked off. There's a little curb on each side of Houston Street here next to the American Airlines Center where our studios are. So on one side, I have a bike lane that is curbed off going both directions, and I never see anybody on it. When I say never see anybody on it, I think I'm up to 11, maybe 12 times I've seen someone use the curbed off bicycle lane. I've seen more bicycles go in the actual path of the regular road versus the bicycle lane. I've seen more people use their bicycle on the sidewalk than the bicycle lane. The bicycle lane is the least bicycled part of the entire infrastructure around the American Airlines Center. And you know what these monsters did over here by the Tom Thumb? These absolutely, I think they're just trying to tick me off. They're trying to give me a stroke. Train, have you seen this? They put up traffic lights for the bicycle lane. And I don't mean like another regular traffic light. I mean one that specifically has like these little bicycle icons on it. You have bicycle specific traffic lights coming off this bicycle lane next to Tom Thumb. On that bicycle lane, I have never, and I can, with a capital Never, I have never seen a bicycle in that bicycle lane, and they have a damn traffic light for it. It is the dumbest thing in the world. It's a brand new one, too. They just spent tens of thousands of your dollars, flushed them down the toilet on these. On the other side, I have the DART exchange here, where people can get off any of the DART lines and get on the Trinity Rail Express, and it's just the Truman Show all day. They're just opening and closing the doors on empty trains. No one's getting off. No one's getting on. It's worse than the Truman Show. At least they had actors pretending to ride the things. But it looks like a movie set over here. So, with that, it drives me nuts that people still go around, oh, yeah, we need more bike lanes. Bike lanes are great. Yes, let's take your bike to work day. No, these are all stupid, terrible ideas. No one's taking part in it. It's a complete waste of money. It's all for show. And then I got to turn on the TV. And what do we have this morning? We have the morning show on a local TV station with the Texas Department of Transportation giving you tips on bicycle safety. This is crazy. This is like giving you tips on riding a unicorn. This is something that doesn't happen. You understand that? Listen to this.
The weather is getting nice out. It's warming up, and that means more people will be out walking and biking. More people will also be hitting the roads. So it'll be important to look out for everyone, whether you are behind the wheel, on foot, or riding a bike. Tila Grant is from TxDOT Dallas, and she is here with some safety reminders to protect everyone on the roads. Tila, thank you for being here this morning.
Yes, Morgan, thank you for having me.
Let's get right into the statistics. You know, TxDOT often posts them on billboards to encourage people to stay safe, but it can be dangerous and in some cases deadly for pedestrians and cyclists out there. Can you walk us through the numbers when we talk about this?
Yeah, definitely. Pedestrians and cyclist fatalities account for 1 in 5 of all traffic deaths. In 2024, 772 pedestrians and about 80 cyclists were killed on Texas roadways.
Hang on a second. So if bicyclists are one of the smallest demographics of commuting, but between pedestrians and bicyclists, that's 20% of your fatalities. I wish they would break it down. Find out how many people commute to work every day versus 80 people killed taking a bicycle. That's got to be the most dangerous way to get to work. It has to be the most useless way to get to work. We talk about how many aspects of this are just terrible ideas. Everyone's a terrible idea except for you save money on gas. Because I already brought up the fact that if it's 100 degrees, if it's 30 degrees, or what if it's raining? How do you go to work on a bicycle if it's raining? You just going to show up sopping wet, just 100% saturated? Could you do your job? I couldn't do my job if I walked in 100% soaking wet. This is such a dumb idea. But it's also the most dangerous way you can go to work. It's the most deadly way you can go to work. And they're all trying to push you into this? Yeah, we need more people to go to work on a bike. Are you taking a bike to work? Hell no. What if it's raining? What if it's hot? What if it's cold? On top of that, it's dangerous. It could kill you. But there's all kinds of just ridiculous things that go along with riding your bike to work. Like, what happens if you need to drop your kid off at school on the way to work? You just going to give them a pump? Is that what you're going to do? What if you need to go pick up groceries? You just, whatever you can carry in one hand while you drive home with the other hand, you're going to keep a backpack or a duffel bag or some sort of storage crate on there? You think you can really tote home all the groceries like you can in a car? What happens if someone needs a ride? What happens if there's an emergency? What happens if your kid's sick and you need to go pick him up from school? It's just terrible ideas. And they have people come on TV and just act like it's the most normal thing in the world. Yeah, here's some bicycle safety tips. I'll give you bicycle safety tips. Don't ride a bicycle to work. Be a grown-ass man and get a car. How about that? Maybe carpool. Maybe take an Uber. But do not take a children's toy to work. If you're relying on that, your quality of life is going to be terrible. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, they're getting rid of the rainbow crosswalks in Dallas. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Just lamenting how you can turn on so many media outlets. And this isn't a North Texas thing. This isn't Dallas-Fort Worth thing. This isn't a Texas thing. This happens all across probably the planet. But everywhere I've lived, they do this thing where they lionize bike lanes as if that's a good thing. You know, they talk about these standards of living that they want you to live, and they always sound terrible, don't they? They want you to live in a tiny house. Who the hell wants to live in a tiny house? You want to have the smallest carbon footprint possible. Not really. Not me. That's not what rich people do. That's not what Al Gore's doing. It's not what Leonardo DiCaprio's doing. The people that lecture you about global warming are taking private jets to do it. No, you need to take a bicycle to work, not a car. Shut up. I would wish that on my worst enemy. That's how bad it is. Meanwhile, I got to sit here and watch every day while this bike lane goes completely unused. And then we get lectured about bike lane safety. We need more bike lanes. And it's just so dumb. I can't believe normal people just hear this and they don't get laughed out of town for saying it. James in Plano, you're on WBAP. Hey, James.
Hello. I've got to tell you an experience because I lived in South Florida for many years, had a pest control company, and I was a tamp and spray guy. And so the whole east side of Florida is A1A or Ocean Boulevard, and it goes the entire state. And so my office was in West Palm Beach. And every time I'd have to go through Boca Raton, that's a 2-lane. There is no bike lane, but all these guys think they're going to be in the Tour de France. And you got these old guys on all these expensive bikes, and they clog up the lanes. And I will just, when I get to the point, I'll tie them. I was in a 350, F350, dually 4-wheel drive diesel.
Sweet.
And I would dump the clutch and just floor it and fog them out with black fog.
Non-country people, that makes a whole lot of exhaust, and it's this thick cloud of smoke when you do that. Anyway, go ahead.
Hell yeah. So I just had to relate with that.
Well, you're a James Show hero, sir.
And my name is James. So that's kind of cool. I'm kind of digging your show. You know, I'm getting, I'm listening more to it. There's some things that you've said that I don't like.
Oh, of course.
The traffic thing, absolutely. The bikes, holy cow. Get a mountain bike. They got plenty of trails out there.
Yeah, hey,
but anyway,
I totally agree. Listen, one of the frustrating things isn't even the people that are actually commuting and using the bike. I hate those old guys and the bicycles that are doing this for funsies. They have those people out in buck tussle, and I just want to run them off the road because this is your preferred recreation. Here's what bothers me is when they put on the little skin suits. They've got on the little biker shorts, and they've got the tight shirt with no sleeves on it. And it's for what? So you can be aerodynamic? What are you doing? That's so you look silly. You can't go anywhere. It's not like you're going to meet your friends at the bar and you're dressed like that. You just have a really fruity, annoying, traffic congesting hobby. And you look silly doing it. Can you just wear normal clothes? Oh, there's more wind drag. Aren't you doing this for exercise? Wouldn't it be better exercise if you had wind drag, if you had a little more resistance? Make up your mind. Right? You're not trying to. This isn't the Olympics. I mean, the closest place I see these guys do this out in Bug Tussle, it drives me nuts. I'm like, you could go for 5 miles. The only place you're going is a Dollar General. So clearly, you're just doing this for recreation. Get the hell off of my road. Chuck and Whitney, you're on WBAP.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I used to do a lot of biking in Colorado, but I never followed the bike laws. They had these skinny little bike lanes that I refused to participate in. And when I came to an intersection, I would go around the traffic instead of going in front of a 3,000-pound car or truck.
Yeah.
And I call it common sense. They had this law, too, where they didn't want you riding on a sidewalk in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I refused that one, too. I would rather be up on a sidewalk than out there with traffic. I used to ride 75 miles a week, 13 miles each way to work 3 times a week. And it's great exercise, but a bicycle has no place in front of a car. when they try to do this, people get killed. And I rode for quite a while in Colorado, but I like to say it was common sense. You know, you just don't get yourself in front of a 3,000-pound car. And I just think some of these bike lanes are ridiculous. I never participate. I actually got a ticket for not complying with that law once while on my bicycle.
Oh God!
But I don't care. It's my life, and you know you got to protect yourself. And I just don't agree with some of these bike lanes and bike safety. There's nothing about bike safety when you're next to a big car.
Yeah, well, Chuck, I get into these arguments with people because I'll gripe about DART and I'll say, you know, this has been terrible for Dallas front to back, and people will say, well, it's been great for traffic congestion. How does running empty buses and empty trains help with traffic congestion? If you got to wait in a red light behind an empty bus, isn't that making traffic worse as opposed to better? If you have to stop at a train crosswalk, you know, the railroad crossing, to watch an empty train go by, is that really speeding up traffic? And for the bike lanes, is that making traffic better or worse? I would submit they're making them worse, because if a bike is only going through here about once every eclipse, but it's marking off the road the other 364 days a year, I would submit that's making traffic worse.
Yeah, I hear you, James. I don't know why they cater to the 2%, or maybe it's 1%. There's a lot of bicycle riders in Colorado, but again, there's a lot of bicycle deaths, and I wasn't one of them. So
well, I have one number that you might want to remember, Chuck and Whitney. Out of all the commuters in North Texas, 0.6% of them use public transportation to get to work. 0.6%. I busted a guy with that last week. He was like, listen, man, I know ridership is kind of low, but it's still a good program, and there's thousands of people who depend on DART every day. And I'm like, well, if it was lower than 2% participation, would you still support it? He's like, I don't know, 2% is pretty low. And I'm like, well, what if it was below 1%? He goes, fine. If it was below 1%, I would be against it. I go, good. It's 0.6%. Does that change your mind? Oh, I don't know, James. Still thousands of people. Yeah. 800-288-9227. You have a DART update coming up next. It's not nearly as infuriating as the bicycle update, the bike lane update, but it's still pretty cringe. You'll hear it next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Yeah, I guess we're in the middle of transportation updates for North Texas. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. No, I'm not going to go into my whole anti-DART tirade. I can only do that about once a month before it wears me out. But we do have some sad DART updates, and the fact that the game of chicken that's being played by the suburbs versus the city of Dallas and DART itself. Couple of I think 3 of the suburbs have already backed down on their plans to hold a referendum to let the people decide on whether or not they would like to continue subsidizing DART, WFAA.
Tomorrow, the DART Board of Directors will meet to discuss potential service changes for the transit agency. It comes as several cities try to decide whether to stick with DART or leave the transit service altogether. Right now, Addison, Highland Park, and University Park are planning to let voters decide during May 2nd elections whether to remain a part of DART or leave. Farmers Branch, Irving, and Plano decided to stay, canceling elections they had previously scheduled. If voters approve leaving DART, services would stop immediately. The meeting is set for Tuesday at 6 p.m. at DART headquarters in Dallas.
So half of the suburbs have backed out. There's still progress to be made. And now Plano would have been the trophy case because Plano is in the unique situation. I believe, aren't they the biggest contributor to DART besides Dallas itself? And also Plano sends more money to DART every year than all of the residential property tax collections combined. Just to let you know how much they're spending on DART. Are they getting their return for it? Are they getting that? Is everything turning out all right? They just opened the Silver Line a couple months ago. It's already way behind in its ridership estimates. It's another proven waste. They can't stop wasting money on DART. And only 3 heroic little suburbs. Some little guys are standing up to the big guys. These are the David to DART's Goliath. We are pulling for you. University Park, Highland Park, and Addison. Hold the line and kick DART out. Save yourself millions and millions of dollars every year. The other transportation update, I mean, somewhat controversial, but doesn't really affect you that much. WFAA has the report on removing rainbow crosswalks. It was decided recently by the governor, and the deadline, I believe, is coming up next week.
Hey, good morning to you both. Yeah, this all started back in October. Governor Greg Abbott said that the state needed to prioritize uniformity and predictability in traffic control. He said the roads needed to be safe and free from distraction. And for him, that meant getting rid of rainbow sidewalks just like this that you see in Dallas's Oak Lawn neighborhood. Now, according to a city memo, Dallas sent a compliance plan to TxDOT in January, committing to updating 30 crosswalks to meet state requirements. Last fall, Councilman Paul Ridley argued for the crosswalks, saying, quote, the idea that these crosswalks are a safety concern is unsupported and highly questionable. The move is already drawing backlash. A Methodist church in Oak Lawn painted its steps in rainbow colors. Local activists have also protested, saying the crosswalks were privately funded and city approved. And for those hoping the rainbow crosswalks would stay, the city says it is now looking for alternatives with its Office of Arts and Culture. In fact, the office is looking for public insight and hosting meetings starting in April. The first one is on April 6th. I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, it's the thing that bothers me and probably most people about this is a public road, and you're not supposed to use it to, propagandize for your political ideology. That's clearly a misuse of taxpayer dollars. We're using the excuse of, well, this isn't what's good for safety. No, it's not that the rainbow crosswalks aren't safe. It's not that somebody was going to stop, but it wasn't a white crosswalk, so I just kept going and I ended up killing a family of 4. It's not a safety issue. We don't have to lie about it. We don't like public funds being used to proselytize someone's ideology, and rightfully so. Just imagine because if they can do that, well, how come at the crosswalks in Bug Tussle or really any suburb or exurb in DFW, why don't all the crosswalks say, I don't know, shall not be infringed? How about that, huh? Or here we go. Why don't we put the 10 Commandments on the sidewalk? Oh my gosh, crosswalk with the 10 Commandments, separation of church and state, and It's been a brilliant move, the whole separation of church and state, because when your ideology, Marxism or leftism or socialism or wokeism is your religion, now you have a bludgeon to use against your political opponents that can't be used against you. So yeah, removing rainbow crosswalks in the street. It's not going to change anybody's life one whit, pro or con. We're not erasing anybody's existence. We're not discriminating. It's not an act of hate. It's just plain as plain can be. You're not supposed to use the public roads for your political purposes. That's all. All right, coming to town. TLC and Salt and Peppa with In Vogue. No, it's not 1996. They are on tour again. It's Iconic Tour is what it's called. It's coming to the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory on October 5th. For information and tickets, go to livenation.com. But oh my God, if you just want to have a 90s flashback, go see TLC, Salt and Peppa with In Vogue. Dude, those were if this was like the year 2000, that would be the concert of the year. You realize I think I had all three of those CDs at some point in high school. I know. You know, the one with waterfalls on it. All right, still coming up on the James Show. We have Operation Mario Kart busting a huge theft ring, and none of it actually was go-karts. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Good to see you, too. I know. Operation Mario Kart happened here in North Texas. What's Operation Mario Kart? I didn't even know we had the Rainbow Road. No, we're just digging that up by April 1st. Haha. WFAA has the real report here.
Talk about Operation Mario Kart, a North Texas theft ring bust that started with stolen video game electronics and accessories. Back in December, investigators uncovered a small theft of some games, but they kept digging and uncovered a bigger operation. A search warrant in Irving revealed more than $100,000 worth of stolen games and other property from stores like Walmart, Target, and Kroger, plus $42,000 in cash. Nintendo helped with the investigation along with retail loss prevention teams. One person was arrested.
I do have some audio from the arrest. Hang on.
Welcome to Mario Kart.
Oh, no, that was from my games last night. Haha. So, Operation Mario Kart. Did you know that these games are that expensive? One of the problems... You probably haven't played video games in a long time. When we were kids and we had video games, whether you had the Atari or you had the Nintendo, it was a big cartridge, right? Even Super Nintendo had a big cartridge. Nintendo 64 had a cartridge. Well, at some point, they got down to little discs, and now it's these tiny little SD cards, or you can really actually swipe thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of product, and it all fits in your left pocket. That's the dangerous part about the video game, the thieving world as far as video games are concerned. So Operation Mario Kart. Now, can I go ahead and sort of fold this back in to what we were talking about earlier? If we got time to go track down the Operation Mario Kart, if we got time to go track down the dude that is stealing video games, Kirby's Great Adventure, Donkey Kong Country 18, or whatever we're up to. Don't we have time to go get the people that are doing housing discrimination in Frisco? Don't we have time to the Indians that are running afoul of housing contracts and apartment contracts in Plano and Frisco? We don't have time to go enforce those laws? I mean, this is $42,000 in cash was found on them, over $100,000 worth of merchandise. I'm sure just one house would warrant greater, as far as cost, dollar amount, crime than this. So we've got time to go track down these guys. But not the Indian housing fraud? No, none of that? That's interesting. I find that to be, when we talk about selective enforcement and priorities here, this is the micro version of the macro discussion that is being had right now in D.C. There are a lot of people saying, well, we've got to reopen this government. We can't sit here and have long lines at airports. So we talk about our priorities all the time. Oh, we can't cut USAID. There's going to be children that starve on the other side of the planet. We just need to realize that so many of this that you suspect is fishy, trust your instinct. It is fishy. It is fishy that we have the resources to go after the Mario Kart bandits, but not the thousands and thousands of homes and apartments that are being held fraudulently by immigrants who shouldn't even be here, who are abusing the H-1B system. Isn't that weird? It is weird. You shouldn't doubt yourself. You should act accordingly. And speaking of, we have the shutdown going. Let's look at how it's being responded to. Hakeem Jeffries. Number one, he talks about ICE at airports and how that's a bad thing. Now, ICE at airports is something that has always been. ICE has always been in and out of airports. It may not be as much as it is now, but it's nothing new. But what we've seen is the federal government shifting resources because some ICE agents are getting their paychecks delayed. They're now calling in. 5 to 10% of them are calling in sick every day. So some ICE personnel has been scooted over to help with airports. You would think Hakeem Jeffries would be in favor of this because the more ICE agents that are at airports scanning people's luggage or whatever, the fewer ICE agents that are out deporting potential Democrat voters. But here he is. He doesn't like it. No ICE at airports. Got it.
Well, good morning. Great to be with you. There are three things that have been true since Donald Trump and Republicans came back into power last January. life is more expensive, life is more chaotic, and life is more extreme. The last thing that the American people need are for untrained ICE agents to be deployed at airports all across the country, potentially to brutalize or in some instances kill them. We've already seen how ICE conducts itself. These are untrained individuals when it comes to doing the current job that they have for the most part, let alone deploying them in close exposure and highly sensitive situations at airports across the country.
Has ICE killed one person at an airport in the history of ICE? Of course, the answer is 0. No, they haven't. So why is he saying they're even out there to kill them in some instances? Dude, what can ICE do that you won't gripe about them? Because ICE being at airports, like I said, they take them off the streets. They're not going after immigrants. They're doing the job that TSA is supposed to do. No, we still don't want that one doing. Oh, really? They're untrained. They don't get any training. We just hire people. We give them a gun and a windbreaker and say, have at it. Go get some brown people. I mean, the fantasy they have is just ludicrous. Here's another one. Hakeem Jeffries. Trump should just shut his mouth.
But on Truth Social this morning, he said, now with the death of Iran, the greatest enemy America has is the radical left, highly incompetent Democratic Party. Your response?
Donald Trump should keep his reckless mouth shut before he gets somebody killed.
And that's been a common thread on social media. Donald Trump said now that Iran's flipped, our biggest threat is Democrats, radical left Democrats. Not all Democrats, not the Bill Maher's and Mark Cubans of the world. Maybe just the people who think we should have open borders and men can have babies is what he's talking about. But yes, Donald Trump should shut his mouth. Really? Because I remember being called domestic terrorist on a regular basis. I remember being told I'm the biggest threat to the nation. I'm the biggest threat to women. I'm scarier than a bear. But now all of a sudden we can't say that his political opponents are a threat to the nation. Just shut his mouth. You don't have a better argument than that. You don't have anything that's a little more persuasive than that. Donald Trump needs to shut his mouth. Oh, you got us so good. I guess we'll stop now. But yeah, the shutdown continues for the most light and transient of reasons. Number one of the sticking points that Hakeem Jeffries is pushing is he doesn't want ICE at polling locations. Why would you worry about immigration laws being enforced at polling locations unless you're concerned that people who are running afoul of immigration laws are going to be at polling locations where they shouldn't be in the first place? But yeah, Donald Trump needs to just shut his mouth. Oh, great argument. You really won. Coming up next on The James Show, Colonel Grant Newsham. We have another military vet that's going to give his take on the situation in Iran because a lot of people are saying this could be over pretty soon. Find out next on The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, so are we about done with Iran or what? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. My next guest, I think on the James Show for the first time, Colonel Grant Newsham. He's author of the book, When China Attacks, A Warning to America, but also sounds like you have a military background. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Grant, and why should we have any stock in your opinion on foreign affairs? Well, your book of note is When China Attacks, A Warning to America, and I'm sure you're on board with the general context of what all's going on. Seems to be aimed at China. You kick out the legs out from under, Venezuela and Cuba and Iran, and all of a sudden China's situation looks a little more untenable. They don't have a back channel to black market oil so easily anymore. How much of this really is about China? So how does Cuba play into this? They don't really have resources. Venezuela and Iran are drowning in oil. Cuba cranks out what? Sugar cane? Why do we care about them so much? So the only thing they really have to offer is geography. Right. So how have they reacted? I haven't heard a lot of them out of the media. I mean, I guess I assume that they're being quiet, but when they see Cuba, Venezuela, and Iran go to the wayside so easily and so quickly, has there been any response from them? Colonel Grant Newsham, appreciate you being on the James Show. Find his book, When China Attacks, A Warning to America. All right, coming up next on the James Show, we're going to play Dead or Alive. And today we're playing for 2 tickets to the Satch Vai Band, which is exactly what it sounds like. Joe Satriani and Steve Vai have crammed their last names together to make one word. Well, they're also coming to the Music Hall at Fair Park on April 17th. Get tickets and information at livenation.com. If you want to win a pair of tickets from us, go ahead and call in right now. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Go ahead and load up the phones. We're going to play Dead or Alive next. Today's category is Kelly's. So I had a guest earlier, Kelly, in honor of her first appearance on the James Show. Today's category is Kelly's. Also, I'm going to be at CPAC coming up Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I know. No, I'm not flying out to some awesome destination. CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, the biggest meeting of the conservative movement every year, is happening in Grapevine this year. So I'm going to be doing a live show Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They'll be out there, and they'll be out there too on Saturday, but I don't have a show on Saturday, so I'm not going to do a live broadcast there. But if you're already going to be out there, come on by the table and say hi. Or if you were looking for something to do, or you're a big fan of CPAC and you just found out, oh my goodness, it's going to be in your own backyard, well, go check them out. You can just look them up online, CPAC something, I'm sure. All right, coming up next, Dead or Alive for Satch Vai tickets on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, you're just in time for Dead or Alive. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Thank you very much for hanging out on a Monday. So, Dead or Alive is the easier of the two James shows. James Show game shows. This is where I'm going to tell you 10 celebrities. You have to tell me if they're dead or alive. That's really it. Ready? Thank you, Mr. Jovi. So, at stake on today's exciting episode of Dead or Alive, 2 tickets to see the Satch Vi Band. Rock fans, you'd be happy to know Joe Satriani and Steve Vai are coming to Music Hall at Fair Park on April 17th. For the rest of us, you can get tickets and information at livenation.com, but some lucky listener is going to get tickets right now. I'm going to give you a list of 10 people. Their name has Kelly in it. See their first or last name, Kelly. You tell me if they're dead or alive. Whoever's on the phone at the end of the game is the one who gets the tickets. With that, let's start off with, wait a second. Brent in Lake Weatherford, your name sounds familiar. Have you won one of our contests in the last 90 days?
Yeah, it was a long time before that, rodeo tickets. And then when I got there, they wouldn't even honor them. They said, well, we're all sold out of those.
No way.
Yeah.
How long ago was that? Was that more than 90 days ago?
Well, that's when the rodeo was.
Well, that was only like a month and a half ago. All right, I'm sorry, Brent. I'm going to have to skip you, bud. Jack, also in Weatherford. You ready?
Hello. Yes, I am.
Now, have you won anything in the last 90 days?
No, sir.
Okay. Let's go through Dead or Alive, the Kelly edition. Let's start with local princess Kelly Clarkson. Is she dead or alive?
I think she's alive.
Oh, she's definitely alive. She's only 43. I'm just a big fan. I want to stick it in there. Next one, Kelly Preston, John Travolta's ex-wife. Dead or alive?
Alive.
Nope, she died in 2020, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, Jack in Weatherford. Robert in Dallas, you're next up on Dead or Alive. You ready?
I am ready.
All
Thank
right.
you.
In today's Kelly edition, the next one is Kelly Ripa, the TV host Kelly Ripa. Dead or alive?
Alive.
55 years old. Actress Grace Kelly. Dead or alive?
Dead.
Yeah. Also, Princess Grace Kelly. She's been dead since 1982. I have a feeling Robert already knew that one. Megyn Kelly. Dead or alive?
Alive.
Yeah, she's only 55. You know her from Top Gun. She was Tom Cruise's love interest in Top Gun, the original one. Kelly McGillis. Dead or alive?
Alive.
68 years old. The lead guitarist of the 80s rock band Girl School. Her name is Kelly Johnson. Is she dead or alive?
I got a 50-50 chance on that one. I'm going to guess dead.
Yeah, that's how you play it, Robert. Well done. The beautiful woman from Weird Science. Her real name is Kelly LeBrock. Is she dead or alive?
Another guess. I'm going to say alive.
Yes, 65 years old. And in 1988, that was the hottest thing I had ever seen in my entire life, Robert in Dallas. Next one, Robert in Dallas's favorite singer, R. Kelly. Is he dead or alive?
Alive.
See, he is your favorite. You knew that really fast. 59 years old. Yes, for those of you who aren't familiar with R. Kelly, don't Google it. He's a singer and also a bunch of other stuff you don't want to know. And finally, Robert in Dallas, you're going to get the tickets if you can tell me if Kelly Osbourne is dead or alive.
Alive.
Yes, 41 years old. Well done, Robert. I'm going to put you on hold. Good Garrett's in the big seat today. He'll get your information, and we will email you the tickets. 2 tickets to the Satch Vi Band featuring Joe Satriani, Steve Vai. They'll be at Music Hall at Fair Park, April 17th. For the rest of us, we get tickets and information at livenation.com. That's been today's edition of Dead or Alive. Thank you very much, Robert in Dallas and all of my other contestants. The effort is definitely appreciated, even if you didn't win anything. Senator Kennedy from our neighbors over in Louisiana. He's got a new book coming out called How to Test Negative for Stupid. I found out in an interview that this wasn't the original name for the book.
your new book, How to Test Negative for Stupid and Why Washington Never Will. What title? The book highlights what you believe are the absurdities of Washington. What was your goal in writing the book, and what do our viewers around the country need to know about How to Test Negative for Stupid and Why Washington
Well,
Never Will?
briefly, that title was my second choice. My first choice, the publishers wouldn't let me use it. I wanted to name the book Always Be Yourself Unless You Suck. But the publisher said absolutely
wow.
not.
I think that's solid advice. Always be yourself unless you suck. You know, there's a real piece of wisdom in there. I remember when the Nike campaign came out, and what was that, the late 90s, early aughts, just do it. I think it was the 90s, right? Just do it. No, don't just do it. What if you're about to do something stupid? What if you're about to jump off a bridge? What if you're about to bungee jump and you didn't double check your fastener? No, don't just do it. Think about what you're doing. And is it the right thing to do? Well, it's like the people who say you should just follow your dream. Well, what if everybody wants to be a photographer, but there's only 4 weddings this weekend? You know what if you want to be like a top 40 singer and more than 40 people want to do it? Yeah, maybe test a negative for stupid. Some people don't even know they should be pursuing that. Senator Kennedy. Coming up next on the James Show, a couple of touching stories about Chuck Norris that I saw on social media over the weekend. I thought you'd appreciate it if I share them with you next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, we're going to remember a Texas legend for a second here on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. I'm going to start with Joe Rogan, number one podcaster in the world, guy who has built an amazing career through stand-up comedy, television, a little bit in movies, but that's not really what he's really known for. And then evolving through all that, through hosting Fear Factor, through being on news radio, through being an MMA fighter, through being the voice of the UFC, to now being the number one podcaster on the planet. And he says he owes all his success to Chuck Norris, who changed his life.
Chuck Norris changed my life, for real. If it wasn't for Chuck Norris movies, who knows? I might not have ever gotten into martial arts. That gentleman right there will always have my respect. Him and Bruce Lee are the reason why I got into martial arts. 100%. Watching Chuck Norris movies when I was a kid, one of my proudest moments of my life was in Chuck Norris doing who I was. I ran into him at a kickboxing event in New Jersey, like way back in the day, and he gave me this big hug. It was one of his events that he had. He had a World Combat League. He gave me a big hug. I was like, holy Chuck Norris knows who I am.
Damn right you did.
I couldn't have been happier.
No wonder you're unbreakable, you little sucker.
I was beaming.
Now, that's a bold statement, that to be beaming and whatnot, because I've met a lot of celebrities, and being just some hick from the middle of nowhere, it was so amazing the first time you get to meet a celebrity, because you think, wow, I never expected to meet a celebrity. If you're from New York City, or if you're from Los Angeles, or even if you're from a big town like Dallas or Houston, every once in a while you just kind of see celebrities every once in a while, or at least you know they live around the corner. You know Chuck Norris lives around the corner from you. You know Post Malone lives around the corner from you. You know Owen Wilson lives somewhere around here. But out in the middle of nowhere, there's no chance of seeing a celebrity. So at the beginning, it's very cool. After about the third or fourth celebrity you meet, it gets to be the most mundane thing in the world, unless you're actually like an active fan of them. So it's really hard for someone in a position like Joe Rogan, or even me, with the few celebrities I've met, to get excited about meeting these guys. I mean, because after a while, it gets kind of annoying. You know, these people are beating down your door and they want to come on your show, but they don't want to help your show. They just want to promote their stuff. And so also, if you're in Joe Rogan's spot, even more so than being a talk radio host in Dallas, you have been annoyed by celebrities probably more than it's paid off for you. So for him to say that about Chuck Norris, it must have been something really special for him. In fact, I know it was something really special for him. But you think about that, and just that sentence he says where I might not even gotten into martial arts if not for Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee. That's amazing. What does the world look like if Joe Rogan isn't interested in martial arts? Does he still have the number one podcast in the country that's not really martial arts related, but his path was definitely influenced? You know, him being a martial artist, him staying in shape, and then him doing the UFC thing. Kept his name out there. Maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't be. But don't we all have someone like that? Like for me, I don't know how interested I would be in being a talk show host if not for Rush Limbaugh and Howard Stern. You know, there's other talk show hosts that they were an influence, no doubt, but not like that. There are a lot of people who, your career, if you're a musician, there has to be some album you heard, some song you heard. It might even be a guitar lick you heard where it just put the fish hook in your brain, never to let go again. And so I think one of the takeaways you should have from this is notice how this is a generational vibe. Like what Joe Rogan just said about Chuck Norris, this is what some people are going to say about Joe Rogan in 10 to 20 years, or whenever he passes away. I wouldn't even be a podcaster if not for Joe Rogan. I bet you have somebody like that. You know, I know about half of you work jobs you hate. You know, you just went and got a job at the local factory to make ends meet, or you just got a job, you know, working at the post office because it's got good benefits. But for those of you who are something you want to be, for those of you, even like if you're a teacher, who made you want to be a teacher? There's some alpha out there. There's some, you know, what's called like a Aristotle archetype, or no, Platonic archetype Sorry, wrong philosopher. Out there who actually got that fish hook in your brain and you decided, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a coach. I want to be a lawyer. You saw Perry Mason or something growing up. All of a sudden you wanted to be that guy. So that's really high praise. That's about as high praise as someone can get. Me being exposed to your work changed my life. And it's not the garbage man saying that. It's Joe Rogan. So if Chuck Norris is hearing that, or if his family is hearing that, that should make your heart swell. Also, I like this whole clip of Chuck Norris sitting down, reading a bunch of Chuck Norris jokes. I think this was on ESPN. But when you get to sit down, and after you've had a long, successful career in martial arts and in movies and in television, to get this new life, your brand is so seeped into the American consciousness that you're the default setting for Superman jokes is basically what this is. And then to come back and read it all and just celebrate it yourself. How cool is this?
When Chuck Norris does push-ups, he doesn't push himself up. He pushes the earth down. There are no steroids in baseball, only players Chuck Norris has breathed on. That's not fair. I don't know. Believe me, these ought to be screenplay writers here. Rather than being birthed like a normal child, Chuck Norris instead decided to push his way out. Punch his way out. Punch his way out. Chuck Norris once shot down a German fighter plane with his finger by yelling, bang. Chuck Norris doesn't churn butter. He roundhouse kicks the cows, and the butter comes straight out. Get my butter. When Chuck Norris sends in his taxes, he sends blank forms and includes only a picture of himself, crouched and ready to attack. Chuck Norris has never had to pay taxes ever.
Is that true?
That's not true. That is not true. That's a total farce.
I live with Chuck Norris.
In fine print on the last page of the Guinness Book of World Records, it notes that all world records are held by Chuck Norris. And those listed in the book are simply the closest anyone else has ever gotten.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, this is one of my favorites here. When the boogeyman goes to sleep every night, he checks his closet for Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris is currently suing NBC, claiming Law and Order are trademark names for his left and right legs. Chuck Norris's tears cure cancer. Too bad he never cries, ever.
Oh, man.
Now, I gotta say my favorite one now.
Oh, you gotta say your favorite one.
Here's my favorite one.
Yes.
They wanted to put Chuck Norris's face on Mount Rushmore, but the granite wasn't hard enough for his beard.
Yes!
Yes. The man is a legend. All right, thank you very much for hanging out on The James Show. TLC, Salt and Peppa, and In Vogue are on tour. They'll be at the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory on October 5th. For tickets and information, go to livenation.com. No, you have not fallen through a wormhole into 1998. TLC, Salt and Peppa, and In Vogue are on tour. They'll be here October 5th. For tickets and information, livenation.com. All right, stick around. Coming up next, Mark Levin. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.